So today I'm going to teach you how to make a vibe. But specifically, not really teach you how to make a vibe, but go over all the options for a vibe. So I'm going to start from making a new mod to getting to copying a vibe. So to start, you're here on the main menu, go to mods, my mods, which you can also check out your lots and your households to do this, and go to the control panel, which we're going to use in a second. So you're going to do create new mod. Let's call it vibe test. So when you hit that OK button, you are going to have your vibe test right down here at the bottom, and it's not going to be doing anything. You are not currently editing the mod. You have to hit edit this mod, and then from there all your other mods will be disabled. So if you really rely on a performance mod to run the game, I would highly recommend not getting into modding at this time, because all mods are disabled. So I would recommend turning on settings if you can't really run the test saves with other mods when you're editing the mod. This is more important for something like my utilities mod, where you need to be in game and testing things with just the mod active in order for it to work. You need to be able to edit quickly, but if you don't care about that, you can just stop editing the mod, which will re-enable all your mods automatically, and then test, and then, edit the mod again. But you have to be editing the mod when you are doing it. So you can see now editing mod vibe test. So next, we're going to go over the control panel. Now, when you start, none of these will be favorited. So, but I favor all the things that I've kind of touched on, and I've had to go back to a little bit. So the big ones, first one you're going to need to go to personalities, which is under personality and identity personalities. You're going to start here. So you can see we have all the vibes that we have right now. So let's say we want to make a copy of the Overjoyed vibe for now. You're just going to, So here's what's going to happen. The GUID. This is what references vibe Overjoyed and other things. If you press this little spyglass, you will load everything that references the vibe Overjoyed. Now, most of this we're not touching today. We're just touching on how to actually make the vibe. But that's what that is. It's just a string of numbers. Do not try to change it. It generates automatically. Next, enable. This is a little toggle. When it's off, the vibe is no longer visible. When it's on, the vibe is visible. I know, crazy. The description. Well, actually, let's do display name. This is what is going to show up here and in game, kind of. So you want to name it. So for a vibe, you want to name it vibe, capital V vibe, underscore name of the vibe. This is just convention. This is not necessary, but it would be very, very helpful for when you're trying to find something later. If you're making a new stat, make it stat underscore luck. If you're making a new social perk, name it social underscore, I don't know, being good at social underscore enemies. You're good at making enemies. Talent, lifestyle, etc. So you're gonna start by doing name it vibe or personality thing underscore name it. Then you're gonna hit this button to edit the translation. If you don't want it to be named this in game, which looks very, very weird and doesn't look right for the rest of the game, you're just going to click that button and type in the name of the vibe, so the second half of this, into there. Then for description, same thing. This will actually generate, you can just not touch this and then just press the generate button and it'll pop up with this in there. It'll basically create a new one, and then you can type in the description of the personality part. Description parameters, do not touch. I don't know what this does. I think it changes where the description is, like offsets. Don't touch this. I don't. It centers itself when you don't touch it. I wouldn't try touching it at this point, since we don't really know what it does. Personality trait category. This is going to be where you're going to pick if it's a stat, a vibe, a social, a talent, or a lifestyle. Advanced personality. I can go into that into this one too. So when you pick vibe, there's type simple, which all vibes are simple. Stats are stat. Some of the lifestyles are toggle and some of the lifestyles are drop down. But you're mostly going to be using simple if you're making a vibe. The icon, you can do this to edit the icon if you really, really want to. But also, if you click it, so you just click on this little bar and type UI, you can try to find like a icon. So if you want to make like, I don't know, a vibe that always has to be in the bathroom, you can do UI icon bathroom or something. And there. If you want to copy a personality, you can do UI personality. And you can find a bunch of different personality parts. And this personality thing is for both like the vibes and the social and the talents. So you can reuse a different one from like another category if you don't want it to be the same as one in like the vibes or the social, but still want it to be there. Next is evolutions. So item 0 is like 1. Like think of this as a number list. 1, 2. Item 0. So this is the first evolution you're gonna get. So it's gonna show up first. Crazy, right? When you evolve. So when you open this, so this is, you know, choices. These are choices. You can have like 3, 4, 5,000. Maybe you don't have 1,000, but you can have these choices. These reference, see how it's like has something in this value. When it says value, that means it's referencing something else. And I'll show you where this can be found. But you can also press this little spyglass to see where this is referenced, where this vibe overjoyed EV1_1 is referenced, or the other one. And this is the second evolution. Can you kind of see the pattern? This is how you name the evolutions, by the way. That's how they end. Default value requirement. This is basically is it like what could this happen? Like this is not really relevant. I believe this is more for like if you are doing something with your talent. So like or like your skills. I think this was just added for some future update. You're going to leave it as undefined, and you're going to leave it as must be true. Must be true is a little misleading. If it must be true, it's what it says. But when you click it off, that is not saying it can be false. That is saying it must be false. Computers don't do nuance at this point. And I hope they never do. But they don't do this nuance. So if you want this type to be true, click here. If it has to be false, click it off. So advanced personality panel, that's what it sounds like. When it's on, it's in the advanced personality panel. So that's vibe. Overjoyed. Honestly, I should just go through the rest of the parts and personality traits generally. So with a stat, you have all the same things. GUID, enabled, display name, description. Doesn't need to be a description for the stats at all, so you just don't click this button. Otherwise you get a description when you don't want one. Again, description parameters, 0000. So, personality trait, category, stats. Type stat. Great. Are you seeing similarities to this? When it's in the stats category, it should be a stat. I mean, you could play around with this, but for your first personality part, I'd recommend not. So icon, you don't need an icon for a stat. Default value requirement, type undefined. Again. So this is not, this is just, that's how you set up a stat. For a social perk, it's very, very similar. It's literally like the same thing as a vibe, you just put it in the social category instead. See? Talents. These also have evolutions, as you can see. Yeah, and they also don't have that. Lifestyles. Here's where it's interesting. So we have two types of lifestyles right now. We have the vegetarian lifestyle, which is a toggle. So it's under the lifestyles. It's a toggle. This means you get that little click button, right? You click it, and it shows up. Now, no default value required. You might be wondering, how does this influence lifestyle? I'll get there. And then cleaning habits, that's a drop down. Choices. These are different than the evolution choices, right? These reference these, which are subcategories of the previous. So, if you want something to be a subcategory, for example, having normal sleeping habits, you get all the same things. Within a personality category, you leave it at none. And then type simple, bing bada boom, right? You can do it for all of them, and then sleeping habits, you reference it as a value here. With choices, item, and the number value. That's one of the choices. So if you wanted to make you wanted to change, you wanted to add another one to like the cleaning habits to be like extra sloppy for some reason. You would create another one called lifestyle _ cleaning habits _ extra sloppy. Set it up like sloppy, and then put it into the cleaning habits choices. And then, but you would have to add a new element by pressing this plus button. So, to the evolutions. Evolutions are actually set up the exact same way as these drop-down options for now. Like that's just, you don't, like they're set up the same way. So that's pretty much everything, because the rest of these are just evolutions, and then we get down to advanced personality. Advanced personality gets, as I mentioned, advanced. Let's start with pronoun. So, in advanced personality, drop down. All the advanced personality thing does is kind of organize it as far as I'm aware. It being in the category advanced, let's see, actually, advanced personalities with the advanced personality GUID. Yeah. All this does is make it so it shows up somewhere. And show it. Because remember, these don't show up in the game. Like these evolutions, because they have a none, so they need something. But because they're not a talent or a lifestyle, they do that. So choices, and then it's the same setup as the other drop downs. And these are all usually drop downs. You can also, so that's the personality traits themselves. But what if you want to add a new category? Looky here, you can. So, for the category, we have the GUID again, display name again, which can be much simpler. Required, like, are you required to pick this? So, advanced personality, not required. You're not required to change anything there. Lifestyles, also not required. But, the others are. So, if you want to make it so something else happens, you would add a new one. Display type. Stat, toggle, drop down. It is very, very simple. Just means it's like the simple one. I know. Lifestyles is toggle. I believe this just means it can show up. think when you age up to a human young adult, you can like click this. I don't know though. I don't really know what display type means in this scenario. I would just match it as much as possible to the personality traits you're going to put in this category. So then, let's go to stats. Stats is more complicated because it adds max points per set and max points per set extended. So, it's kind of really so like, if you wanted to make it so you can have up to 8 points in a stat at default, we would put that to 8, extended maybe 9. It'd be crazy, probably go off the thing, but you could do it in theory. Again, this showing this personality panel, and so disable before life stage is what it sounds like. You click it, you can disable it. So if you want toddlers to have stats, change it to human baby. Change it to none. Now, none in this case means anyone can have it. Okay? That's stats. Vibe, again, same. Talent, same. Lifestyles, same, but for human young adult this time. Advanced personality, simple. Because it's a little different. So, maximum number of characters in bio. It kind of is what it says. Like when I think when you put like when you do the bio for like the household or like the character, this just tells you, can you put in 1,000 characters? No, you have to put in. You can put in a max of 512 characters, which would be like each letter in the word toddler would be 1 character. Next, experience and leveling up. Base experience. So, like, how much experience do you start off with, I believe? Oh, sorry. How much experience does it take to get to the first level versus per other levels, I believe. Personality level notification, leave this. You will not need to change this in order to make a personality mod. Unless you want to change the notification, then that's a notifications thing. Level unlocks. This tells you when for each level, what can you evolve. Sorry if you hear background noise. People are cleaning my house. So yeah. You don't really need to touch these unless you want to make a very complicated mod. So like, first you unlock a talent, then you unlock a vibe evolve, then you unlock a social one, then you can add to a stat, then you can vibe evolve, then you can, but remember, this is going to be level 2, 3, 4. It's going to be 2 off because of how indexing works, and then also how we're starting at level 1, not level 0. So that's level unlock. So if you want to add, so you can keep going up in level, I suppose you can do that. UI locked icon, default trade icon, same thing. Like these are icons to show you what you do. Personality pre-mades, nothing. You can't do anything right now. Now, if we wanted to save personality pre-made, we would have to be in game and have that personality ready, and then we'd press this go button, and then it would save it. I think. Requirement for advanced personality. Look. Type, life stage. So, if you wanted to make it so to get an advanced personality, you need to have a certain skill level. You could change that to skill level. This is math. An absolute range, don't worry about that. I think that would be if you wanted that one would be best if you wanted it to be so, like, when you become an elder, you no longer have a social perk. I don't know why you'd do that, but you could. So then it would be taken away when they become an elder. Life stage, like I said, elder, teen, that's that. Must be true. Again, this is thing. It has a little tooltip. It says equivalent to must be false if it is off. These are references you probably shouldn't touch, but I'll go over them real quick. So this is basically, these are really, okay, actually I'm not gonna go over them. Just don't touch these. We don't really know what they do yet. But these like pronouns, I guess, personality. These are just like references so that the game knows what to do with each of your stuffs. So that's personality. Now, I was going to just end it here. However, I have an idea. I'm going to go over a little bit of brain logic with you. Because this is very, very essential to setting the actual personality working. So, brain logic is really what runs your character's interactions. Ignore this. So, literally, there's so much of it. Look at it. So much brain logic. But you can sort through it by pressing this little spyglass button up here. And if you want to make it so like social, or let's do something else. Let's look at 5. Or like, what's a good way? Here we go. Need. Some of the vibes in social perks of add perks. Me time, need add. Here we go. So I'm gonna go through this over really, really quick. If you really don't, if you don't understand and you want more help, let me know. I can help you. So enabled, run on. So enabled is it enabled. If it's off, if this is off, it's not enabled. It doesn't happen. Run on player. So this one is for either you can run it on just player characters, like people you are actively in the household of. Just run it on NPCs. This is better for like logic, like go here. Like this is like if you wanted to do tiny population logic, and then everyone. This one's just player. GUID, we've already went over. Display name, I already went over. It's the same deal. Some of these, if you type in a display name like this, it'll be that display name, and you don't need to do the translated text. See how the key is different than this? It's already translated. That can be useful in many ways. But next, actually, let's do execute. So like execute logic on. So this is if you want the logic to execute, like to happen. So execute means happen in this case. If you want the logic down here to happen to you, like the person you were actively controlling, who has this vibe, other people who don't have the vibe necessarily, but are near your character, or everyone. So let's keep it on self, because I don't want to break my game. Next is triggers. So, this is where it can get really complicated, because memory log type, just look through these. The ones that are probably going to use the most are going to be, as I've used the most so far, personality trait, in aura, someone is in my aura, and relationship label unlocked. Those are like the most common ones. Probably is relieving need would be useful. Skill level up useful. Yeah. And then it's gonna ask for a value. So, and if you click on it, it'll show you all the personality traits that can be here. So, basically, what value does it? If you want it to happen, make it 0. I don't know for sure, because it's a little inconsistent from my experience, but when it comes to personality traits, 0 is true. Like, do you have the social being a personality trait? 1, false. You don't have it. 0, true. You do have it. I don't really know how to alter this so you could make it make more sense to me, but just keep it at 0 for now. Logic. Here's where it can get complicated. However, it's not that complicated in this case. So for here, when you press this button, it'll add at the end. So if you want to rearrange, you have to do some weird shenanigans where you rearrange each individual line and then add things at the bottom. It's just how it is right now. But when you open this, GUID, again, reference, logic type. Here's where it gets fun, because you can use any of these at any point, really, to make some pretty complicated logic leaps. For example, do will cause an outcome. If will set up a context requirement, which I will go over in a little bit. And if will end ifs, basically. So like if you open an if, you have to, at the very end when you stop talking about that particular if, because you can have multiple ifs in a row, you have to end it with an end if. Return, I think this just like lets it pass through, like it just goes back and lets you continue. So if you don't have anything you want it to do and you just want it to like log it, you can have it like do a log and then end. But return, I think, is most helpful when you're doing like a series. Like if this happens, and it's like, it's kind of like that else if you've ever done programming, except a little different, where if it matches this particular, like it kind of filters it out at the beginning. I think it's the best way to describe it. So like, for example, if you have a vibe that makes you do something if you're angry, right? If you're in, it's like, but when it's only when you go outside. So when you go outside, so when you trigger an outside, because there's an is inside and then you can make it false. When you're outside, if you are already angry, so that'd be an if, context requirement, emotional state, whatever. If angry, return, end if, and then after that return, you can do if like not angry, you can do a different, another if like feeling, and then if you want it to be happy, makes you sad. If happy, do, make sad. And then, here's, we got to, so else, I wouldn't really use else at this point. Because what you're right now, when you're figuring out, you don't know what else is going to do. Else you could use if you want to test to see it, like if it like fails all these checks, like have them get this really big burst of emotion so you can immediately see that something failed. But otherwise, right now, I don't really see a purpose for it within brain logic. I think it's just here just for that, pretty much like debugging. Because it doesn't help in a lot of ways, because that means multiple things can trigger it. So what you're really going to use instead is else if. Else if is like if, and that is a context requirement. However, it is supposed to go between an if and an end if. So if you do an if, happy, do, make sad, and then you want to make it so instead of having to do if, do, end if, do, end if, instead of having to do that over and over again, you can do else if, where if it is, so like if happy, do, make sad, if sad, do, make embarrassed, else if sad, do, make embarrassed. This vibe makes no sense, but it's like an example. So else if is used for checking to do something. Then you can put another do in here and do it. And you can nest these. Like you can put them in like little Russian nesting dolls and change it so that like you can like an if and then an else if, and then within that else if there's another if, and then you can do some pretty long things. Okay. Pick, that's kind of something to do. So you're gonna do a pick, and it's literally, so for this one I would say pure random. Pick one, and then under it you would put a do, and it would pick out of these. See how these are different colors? That means this is under it. You can also kind of see a little indent. So like here, and then end pick means it's gonna stop picking that. You can also delete just as X's. Turn this back to do so I don't break the game. So that's the logic. I could do a whole video on just how the logic works. Because it can get pretty complicated. You can do some pretty cool stuff with this, with the logic. Print steps. I don't know what this does. It's for the devs. It's for the devs. Leave it for the devs. I don't think you need this. In most cases, if you find a need for it, feel free to add it. It shouldn't break anything. But you don't need it for now. And brain logic, don't touch any of these. Great. Glad we're in agreement. Okay. But that's like how, that's kind of like what everything within personalities and a little bit of brain logic. because those are the main things you're gonna need.